In the year 1789, King Louis XVI of France had some financial difficulties. This was due to many factors, such as the monarchy itself spending far too much on useless things, such as lavish goods, and wars that were not needed to be fought by France. The feudalistic system was also split up into three classes, or estates. The first estate consisted of church clergy, the second of wealthy nobles, and the third consisting of all others, which made up 90% of the population in France. However, the only class that had to pay taxes was the third class. Now, naturally, this kind of thing can and will make people upset, as is the case. Also, since each class had only one representative in the Estates General, the third class was then beaten down when they attempted to bring tax breaks for themselves when the issue was brought up that the first and second estate should actually pay taxes. Soon after the Estates General continued to meet, there was a power struggle, and the Third Estate declared themselves a National Assembly. Louis tried to shut it down, but the National Assembly declared they would not stop until a new constitution was written for France. As tension increased between the National Assembly and the monarchy, soon they reached a breaking point, at which members of the National Assembly stormed the Bastille, which was a prison and armory, in order to obtain weapons to fight the monarchy. This would eventually escalate to the capture and execution of King Louis XVI and his wife, Marie Antoinette. After the monarchy was disbanded, the time period called the Reign of Terror began. During the Reign of Terror, many citizens of France were executed by the guillotine. Public execution in France were considered educational at this time in history. Women were even encouraged to sit and knit during trials and executions. However, during the Reign of Terror, most people sentenced to death were not aristocrats, but instead your average Joe. A man and his family could be sent to the guillotine for simply saying a word of criticism towards the revolutionary government. Over 30,000 people lost their lives all across France during the Reign of Terror. The man who led the Reign of Terror was a man named Maximilien Robespierre. However, he too was eventually deemed a threat to the revolution and was sentenced to death, thus marking the end of the Reign of Terror. It seems fitting that the man who started the Reign of Terror finished it with the price that he made so others pay with. During the Reign of Terror, it was not uncommon to see posters and pamphlets promoting the cause of the French Revolution, which makes sense when you consider the fact that the price for not agreeing with the revolution was your life. Lots of revolutionary propaganda had lots of deeper meaning and symbology plastered all across the papers. So we're going to examine 3 different propaganda posters, which all carry the same meaning, yet they have different ways of depicting that. Now, the first thing we're going to take a look at is probably going to be the one repeating theme between all 3 of the posters, and that is this red hat that usually appears around the top of the posters, or usually on top of some sort of post. And pardon my pronunciation on this, but this is called the Feyregan cap, if I'm correct in saying that. But what it was is that during the Revolution, people would wear this cap to be identified as people who were part of the revolution, so they were easily definable in crowds, and that they weren't accused of being a threat to the revolution and got their head cut off. But otherwise, it's actually also called the Liberty Cap because it eventually came to represent liberty, and really what it is it's actually almost a personification of the revolution itself, because all people during the revolution, well, not all people, but a great majority of the people during the revolution would wear this cap so they could be identified as people who were part of the revolution. Meaning that anything that's underneath this cap is pretty much part of the revolution, so that's why you see it at the very top, is that anything below it actually ends up being a part of the revolution. So like the guillotine, obviously King Louis XVI being flogged on a post underneath liberty, and then usually it's this cap, and it's underneath it's united indivisible of the Republic, liberty, and brotherhood, or death. So the first poster we're going to really take an in-depth look at is this first one here. And the reason why I chose to present this one here is not really because of anything it has special contained in the poster. Like, there's no really hidden meanings. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. It's pretty much saying what they want you to do otherwise, under the threat of death. Of course, it has the original French flag right there, which the blue and the red were actually colors of the revolution, and then after the revolution began, the white was actually added for the monarchy. So it actually does have a bit of the monarchy, even though the revolution was meant to overthrow it. But really the reason why I put it in here is because of this guy right here in particular. When I was taking a look at posters around, this guy kind of stood out to me because I thought he kind of seemed familiar in a way. And the way that I'm talking about is that this guy right here for the French poster actually looks a lot like our very own Uncle Sam. If you take a look, Uncle Sam has whitish curly hair. This guy doesn't have whitish, but it's clearly reddish brown curly hair. He's wearing a blue jacket. Uncle Sam wears a blue jacket. He has a white shirt on. Uncle Sam has a white shirt on. Uncle Sam has a very iconic hat on. The guy in here is wearing the Feiringen cap. Other things such as Uncle Sam is pointing at you that what he wants you to do, as in recruit you for the U.S. Army. This guy right here is pointing at what he wants from you. He wants unity, indivisible, like a republic, which is what he wants. They always say that the French, for their revolution, took a lot of their ideas from America. But in this case, America kind of took their ideas from France. Our next little piece of propaganda is this wonderful little poster. I really don't know what to call it. This thing is morbid if you ever saw it. Oh my gosh. I mean, take a look. You have executioner's axes, which I forgot right here is this guy carrying. But two of them right there. They have the guillotine, okay, severing the world on fire. Two uses. It's just all around death. Pure upon pure. This is literally the poster of death. But really why I chose it is, so if you take a look here, everything here is what the Third Estate, which is the estate that revolted and started the revolution, is really everything they oppose. I mean, you can see here a crown that opposed the monarchy. You can see here a cross, which represented First Estate, which was state clergy, and riches and everything that represents the Second Estate, which is nobles. Alright, now our final piece of propaganda is this thing right here, and I chose it because of the amount of symbols that it just took from the two combining ones, like this one here and then this one here, is that it kind of just meshed them together and threw them into one big poster, with a few other additional things such as King Louis XVI actually being flogged, again the Feiringen cap right here, the guillotine, which has just successfully cut off the heads of 3 men in the army of the revolution, marching over the blood of nobles, which is really quite pleasant when you think about it. And in the background you can see what is a castle on fire, which would more than likely be the castle of King Louis XVI. So in essence, this pretty much wraps up the entire revolution into one massive, chaotic, detailed poster.